Hi friends, welcome to my channel, Unsettling Stories. As always, I have brought another horror story for you today. This story is from a friend of mine. When he told me this story, I was quite startled. So, let's listen to this story in his own words. Before we start the story, turn off your lights and close your doors, and get ready to listen to this terrifying story. Let's start.
The cursed town in New Hampshire. One day in late summer a few years back, me and my girlfriend at the time are sitting in bed, just scrolling through our phones, no plans at all for the rest of the day. That's until my phone rings. It's my sister. She's a wonderful person, who we unfortunately don't see often, who lives about 2 hours northwest of me in New Hampshire, on a small plot of land, far up a mountain, with a goat farm. She asks us if we would like to come up for the day, see her and the goats and just relax together a little. Feeling kind of lazy and not wanting to drive that far, I almost decline, but she is my sister and like I said, I don't see her often, so I agree. Me and my GF pull ourselves together and get going, and this is when things start getting weird. An hour and 20 of driving has gone by, and we're nearly in her town, when the first inkling of fear arises. Both of our phones are nearing 1% battery. I swear we had them charged, but we must have just forgot. Unfortunately, though, we had no charger, and there's no stores in the area to buy one, so we figure we just try and get to my sister's as quickly as possible. Remember I said it's a 2-hour drive? Almost 40 whole minutes of it involves winding dirt roads, even some class 4, that lead up to the top of the mountain she lives on. There is nothing up here, houses maybe every few miles, and most look unlivable, all run down and dirty, with junk cars in the front yards and such. But my sister's house is nice, so we continue on. The idea that my phone died before I get house is ringing in my brain. We've been on these dirt roads for so long, and made so many turns, I have no idea where to go if it dies on me now. And that's when fear really struck. I slam on the brakes, skidding to a stop on the dusty old dirt road, and in front of me is something out of a movie. In the middle of the road, the only road that leads to my sister's house, is a makeshift wall, consisting of 2 large metal gates, fallen tree branches, and rocks, and it is covered in messages. There were signs saying things like, "Animal sacrifice area," and "Don't cross the fence," and hundreds of small trimmings from newspapers, put together to write threatening cryptic messages. One of them basically saying, "The cult now owns this land, and if you enter, you better have a gun on you, because you'll need it." There were also dozens of pictures of girls, seemingly random ones cut out from books and magazines, but just scattered on the ground at the foot of this wall. We are speechless. We sit in our car for maybe 10 minutes just looking at this structure, and wondering if it's even safe to get out and look at it. But eventually, I do. I look at the wall, all its little messages and warnings, the bullet holes penetrating all the signs, and then, I look past the wall, down the road we were intending to travel down, and I freeze. I hear large footsteps, off the road into the woods, crunching leaves and snapping sticks. I duck down behind the wall, and I hear whatever this is, move onto the road, with dirt and gravel moving now. I peek through a small hole in the metal gates and what I see has stuck with me since. I, and my girlfriend, swear on our lives, it was the biggest human we had ever seen, and when I say big, I mean tall, but also wide, like Hagrid from Harry Potter. This man was at least 3 times bigger than the second biggest I'd seen, and he was holding an axe. I watch as he turns 90 degrees, and face directly down the road, not towards me, but away, and then just stands there, motionless. I am mortified at this point, and after gaining the courage, I sprint to my still open car door, and floor it in reverse out of there, and my GF says, "The man in the road, never for a second turned around." A few minutes later, after making it a good mile or 2 away from the area, we pull over to catch our breaths, and figure out what is gonna happen from here. My sister's road is blocked, we saw some insane man, and our phones are dead. Both of them. I want to scream, but I keep it cool as not to scare the crap out of my GF. We soon decide, the only thing we really can do, is drive the other way, and attempt to get back to town without directions. There, maybe we can ask someone where the closest store is for chargers. And after this point, is where the more paranormal starts to happen. We drive for a few more minutes, passing a house or two, and then on our right, a road, East Washington Road it's called. This immediately rings a bell in my head. The last text my sister sent me before my phone died was directions to get to her house, and she specifically put at the end, "Don't turn on to East Washington, it's confusing, and I don't think it's where we turned before, so we just keep going." A few more minutes pass and there's a road on our left this time. East Washington Road, again? Me and my GF recognized this weirdness immediately, but figured hey maybe it just looped across somewhere we missed. Not even a minute later, on the left again, East Washington Road, it is getting creepy now, and after the whole roadblock incident we are still very on edge, and start to feel like something is wrong. We continue straight anyway, and no lie, at least 7 to 8 more times, we pass East Washington Road, on both sides of the road we're on, over and over again, until we reach a fork. This fork sent chills down my spine for 2 reasons. First is, I know we did not come in through this fork, so we must have missed our turn, a turn onto East Washington no less. But the second part is even more concerning. On both sides of the fork are street signs, as usual, except for the fact that they both say East Washington Road. How on earth does the same road fork in two different directions? God only knows. So, we turn around and rush back up the road, back towards the scary wall, hoping to see a road we missed that isn't this one repeating East Washington. We made it all the way back to the wall, and no, there were no other roads. We must have turned onto East Washington at some point by accident, and now it's the only way out. And at this point we see, we're almost out of gas. We decided to just send it, drive down to road, through the fork, and down East Washington as far as it goes, hoping it leads back to a main road off this mountain. We drive these winding roads for almost an hour and 40 minutes. Gas is very very close to empty, and it happens. We find the main road and we immediately follow signs into town. We get to town center and we park and turn off the car. We plan on going into a small pub to use their phone to call my mom and sister, and ask the owner about the closest gas station, store. But things are not back to normal yet. I walk inside the pub alone, my GF stayed in the car. The hostess walks up to me and before she can speak I ask, "Can I use the phone here?" I'm lost and mine is dead, and I kid you not, without a word, or any face of acknowledgement, she just turns around and walks away. So I stand there for a minute, and ask the next employee I see, a bartender, and they respond. They guide me over to the back corner of the restaurant, where the phone is, and when I get there, the whole place goes silent. This place is near capacity, totally packed with people, and all of them, at once, go silent. And this silence doesn't feel like, be quiet while he's on the phone to be nice silence, it's very uncomfortable silence. But despite this, I call my mom, she picks up and I explain all that has happened and how we're lost and almost out of gas and she interrupts and says, "Who is this?" And then immediately hangs up. What do you mean who is this? Your son, who at that point had been talking to you for 5 minutes. I'm far past bothered at this point so I leave the pub, and hop back in the car. My GF tells me she asked a man on the street about gas stations and he said there was one right down the road, but it didn't have a store. That was okay, we knew this town, and I could get us home without our phones being charged. So we get the gas, fill up, and get on our way. Feeling sick at this point from all the weird shit that keeps happening to us. The sun is going down at this point, that perfect level of darkness where detail starts to disappear and depth perception gets a little funny. We're about halfway home at this time when out of the corner of my eye, I see strange movement off the side of the road. I slow down a little and look over and I am shocked, it looks like the ground is festering. Like all the dirt and leaves and shit in the woods is all scurrying around in a giant mosh pit. My GF sees this too, and we both are silent, just like WTF. At this point in the day, I couldn't pass this completely without an explanation without feeling like I was going insane. So I slow down my car, and turn off the road onto the shoulder with my lights facing into the woods, and what I see is relieving, but also very confusing. The ground wasn't festering around like maggots. It was actually like 20,000 brown chickens. Just in someone's yard and back forest area. Why? I don't know, but it's the most chickens I'd ever seen in my life. Without even saying a word, I pull back onto the road and we keep heading home. We make it back to our hometown. But, whatever evil shit decided to curse us that day, needed a cherry on top of its torture. We're driving through a big open field, one we know very well, and we see nearly 10 cars pulled off the road, some even into the field. This is not normal at all. Then we see the car heading our direction in the road, slam on their brakes, and immediately all the people inside jump out. Once again, obviously not normal. Then on top of this, they all simultaneously point up, into the sky, and just stand there, hands up pointed. IDK if this all sounds crazy to you, but to me, in the moment, seeing any more unusual shit this day was heart-wrenching. Me and my GF look up in the sky, and what we saw, we couldn't explain, a huge glowing orange-red ball. Literally twice the size of the sun normally, and so dim that you could look right at it, and it genuinely looked like it was moving. As amazing as this sounds, at this point we were not pulling over again for some paranormal crap, and we just sped home as fast as we could. Upon arriving home we get some major relief, but also some more unanswered questions. The giant ball in the sky was in fact the sun. It just so happened to be some once-in-a-lifetime solar event, mixed with a huge amount of wildfire smoke in the atmosphere, making it look very weird. So at least that wasn't scary anymore. On the other hand though, after calling my sister, she said she had no idea what I was talking about explaining the wall blocking the road, or the East Washingtons that had us lost for hours, said she's never seen it. And even worse, my mom swears to this day that not only did I not call her that night from the pub, but she got no calls at all. Me and my GF were terrified of all that we experienced that day, and told all of our friends, to mixed reactions, most thinking we were lying. This is one of 3 insane events that have taken place in this town. The other involved me and all my guy friends going back up to the wall because they wanted to see it after hearing my story, and just as much scary, unexplainable stuff happened that day as well. Entirely solidifying the fact in my head that this town is haunted. Thanks for watching.